気の色いざ知るの息吹なんて感じられないから優しい声で何を歌う悲しい声で何を叫ぶ紡ぐ言葉は空に消えて歌をなくす
はじめまして、Doom Ranger と申します。すみません。I always introduce myself in Japanese. So to those that are new, gomenasai. Today's video will be on the best servants in Fate Grand Order. No, not just Fate Grand Order, Fate Grand Order NA. So the English version of Fate Grand Order, which not everyone plays, but still, just a disclaimer, the word best servants is not limited to just strength or having EX rank stats, but I will also be including waifu and husbando servants too, for example Astolfo. Okay, so let's begin. Ooh, Archer. So being the arrogant fuckboy we all love and having impeccable stats, we have our one and only golden boy, Gilgamesh. Easily the best archer in NA and even in JP. Well, I mean he has Enuma Elish and I don't see anyone that is not weak to it, Enuma Elish. Even Gilgamesh himself is weak to his own noble phantasm. Weird, right? Next up, our husbando material and a dense prick that follows a ridiculous but not laughable ideal. Emiya! Easily said to be one of the best husbandos in the Fate franchise. And he's a 4-star. So he isn't that difficult to get, but I don't have him yet. A decent crit generator with heavy damage dealing arts noble phantasm, introducing Robin Hood. He has decent stats for a 3-star and a massive damage dealing single target noble phantasm. Although you might think that 3-stars have lousy noble phantasms, I assure you that that's not the case. Many 3-stars have very good noble phantasms. 4-stars too. And if you want maybe 2-stars like Hans, that caster has a very nice buffing noble phantasm in my opinion. Oh nice, we got ruler. Okay, so for ruler we have but one, Jean d'Arc, currently the only ruler in NA. Oh, technically as of now, 22nd February, we already have Amasaku Shirou, but I don't think he's the best ruler, so we'll still stick with Jean d'Arc as of now. Why? Well, easily. She has a very good noble phantasm that grants teammates invincibility and HP regeneration per turn, with NP buffing skills, which proves useful in combat. So, why her? Well, you might think that because she gets stunned whenever she uses a noble phantasm that she's bad, but no, because you have other teammates with you. So, when placed with, she's basically compatible with any class. So, her noble phantasm grants them HP regen, even herself. So if she gets hurt while she is being stunned, she can just regen it back. Ain't much a big deal, although the regen is not as much, but her invincibility for her two other comrades will definitely grant you a lot of advantage. Well, basically, if the enemy uses a Noble Phantasm on you, Jean's Noble Phantasm will counter it like Lucio's NP. Okay, let's continue. Oh nice, we got Berserker. Okay, just a thing about Berserkers. Berserkers have effective against almost all opponents, which make them extremely crucial if you want to do fast damage. So for Berserkers in NA, currently we only have 2 5-star Berserkers, and those two are Vlad and Kintoki, if I'm not wrong. And I don't even have to say this, but Kintoki beats Vlad hands down. Vlad doesn't even stand a chance against Kintoki. As for the 4 stars, Heracles is a beast. He deals massive damage due to his class affinity, and also has above average base damage too for Berserkers. He has undying skills, meaning guts and evade, which probably makes him one of the best Berserkers in game. He also wields a deadly Noble Phantasm that deals up to 300,000 damage when used correctly, not to mention the Triple Blaster which annihilates his opponents. So, as for crit stars, Heracles isn't the one you're looking for. Heracles can't generate crit stars for shit. If you want crit stars, I recommend Lancelot. Lancelot will be the best bet. He generates a lot of crit stars with his Noble Phantasm, but he has a Triple Blasters which doesn't really do him much good. Not to say he isn't good, or not to say the Triple Blasters isn't good, but I'd honestly rather see him with a Triple Quick rather than Buster. But he's a Berserker, so oh well.
Give me a Saber now, what the... No, please. Saber? Okay, good, I don't waste any more points. Oh! We smashed it! Yeah, boy! We got the guy! We got the Merlin! Woo! Woo! Yeah!
Caster. This one's tough.
Oh, glad I did that.
We have a few decent casters in the game already, and it's difficult to give casters a place, because they're more of compatibility than brute strength, and honestly, I don't think any casters are compatible waifus or husbandos, so we'll just have to base it on stats. Oh well, here goes. Waver, also known as Zhuge Liang, is one of the best casters due to the fact that he appeared in Fate Stay Night, and people probably want him as a husbando. I'm not too sure, but he doesn't appeal to me. He also has amazing team support too. A fully non-damage dealing skill set and Noble Phantasm solely to protect or speed up the killing process. Much like Merlin, whom took his place as the game breaker and best support. His skills make him an indispensable servant. Skills that give a teammate 30% NP gain. That's really a lot. And 2 other skills that give the entire team more damage or defense, which means that he's literally buffing your entire team. He can turn the tide of a battle with these NP gaining skills. Oh, and not to mention, but the other 2 skills that give more damage and more defense also provide a 10% NP gain for all servants, which means that he can totally generate up to 50% NP gain for 1 servant when you use up all his skills. Pair him up with Caster Tamamo and you're practically indestructible. So with that said, we have Caster Tamamo. She's probably one of the best on the list. Honestly, she doesn't have the greatest skill set, but her Noble Phantasm is a huge support. It heals and gives NP gain, so you can practically spam Noble Phantasms with her around. Pair her with Waver and you got yourself an NP spamming and healing team, truly a force to be reckoned with. For a 2-star servant, Hans is actually very good. You can use him if you don't have any casters and you're just beginning. I heard that some people actually grilled Hans because they don't have any casters. Well, only happens when you have when you have E rank luck.
Save some. I can't use every single one gacha unless it's just
Assassin. In NA, with the release of Jack the Reaper and Mistress Hero in Axe, Jackie is easily said to be one of the best assassins in the game. He can generate as much as 50 crit stars with his normal attack, and has a pretty impressive skill set with evade and enemy diff buffing powers. What do I mean? Well, it means that you have someone that generates crit stars for your entire team and basically can debuff the enemy and evade so you can continue generating crit stars and just annihilating the enemy. Mistress Hero in Axe is also an extremely good servant, but better used when against Sabers due to her malicious attempt to annihilate Sabers. Sorry, this is a spoiler. She is granted a skill that deals more damage to Sabers. Her Noble Phantasm, placed with her quick attacks, can easily generate around 50 crit stars for your critical needs. Not to mention the irony of being a Saber face, but due to that fact, she also rocks as a waifu servant. And with the recent release of Ryogi Shiki, one of the best welfare servants in my opinion, both waifu material and with decent stats. She was released in NA only recently, putting her on the list. She has a Noble Phantasm and a skill to inflict death on enemies, which is actually gonna prove pretty useful when dealing against low-level critters. Ching! Rider! Due to the lack of riders in the game currently, the best riders are Francis Drake and probably Santa Alta. Francis Drake is a pretty decent crit star generator and a huge damage dealer that also has huge. Santa Alta is pure waifu material. Wait, actually, she deals quite a lot of damage, being an altar and all. Undoubtedly one of the best riders as of now. Ooh, the stick holders. Due to the recent release of Skathawk and Brynhilde, those two are currently the strongest and best servants right now. Actually, even in JP they're the best. Brynhilde is honestly a far better damage dealer than Skathawk, but with so much strength, definitely something has to be lacking. That would be the fact that Brynhilde can't withstand a Noble Phantasm when used on her, because she doesn't have the stats to do so, or the resistance to do so, whereas Skathawk has the skills to do so. Skathawk also has a Noble Phantasm that not only deals a lot of damage but inflicts stun to the opponent, making her an awesome lancer. And Skathawk, why can she withstand a Noble Phantasm? That's very easy. She has evade. With evade, she can withstand an entire Noble Phantasm, which actually brings her to be on par with Brynhilde. One with strength but can't handle a Noble Phantasm, one with lesser strength but can handle a Noble Phantasm. Well, honestly, it still depends on the player. If the player doesn't even know how to use a Noble Phantasm use a evade probably, Skathawk will still die. So Skathawk and Brynhilde are both waifu material, so we can't neglect any of them. If Skathak was the only waifu material, then Brynhilde would have lost hands down. But Brynhilde is also waifu material to many. Skathak also has a student whom wields the legendary Gei Bolg, and her student, Ku Hulin, is also an extremely powerful 3-star lancer, due to the simple fact that he is a fucking cockroach. His skills give him the necessary strength to not die, with guts and evade like Heracles, but his evade is not one turn, it's 3 times. Which means that the enemy has to attack him with 3 different cards in order for his evade to wear off. And not to mention his debuff healing. So if the enemy debuffs him with curse or some other damage dealing thing like poison, he has his 3rd skill, debuff and healing, to heal himself while also debuffing the curse and removing the curse and the poison. So he's practically indestructible unless the player doesn't know when to activate his skill, but that's a different story. I assume that everyone knows. While Saber Shiki is arguably not the best Saber, and not as good as Assassin Shiki when it comes to instant kill chance with their respective noble phantasms, Saber Shiki is actually pretty versatile, and useful in other areas aside from attack value. Her high health makes her an exceptional stonewall, and with her yin-yang skill variation restoring much of her health for just a little NP loss. She also retains the same Mystic Eyes of Death perception skill that Assassin Shiki possesses, and her 2nd skill, while not as good as compared to her 1st and 3rd one, isn't too bad for increasing attack and mental debuff resistance. But the most important aspect of her reliability is her Noble Phantasm. Yes, it's not as strong as Assassin Shiki's version, but on the bright side, not only does it ignore defense and attacks all enemies on the field, but it also removes all party debuffs. To put it into simple words, Saber Shiki has high endurance as a saber and can last long while keeping the party alive as long as possible too. It's the moment all you Mordred fans have been waiting for. The Night of Treachery is finally out. So now for a bit of commentary on her gameplay and skill set. Put simply, from my perspective, while she's not the best saber in terms of gameplay, given that she's just essentially a carbon copy of Altora Pendragon, who's unfortunately considered B tier by most players at best. Mordred's slightly higher base attack stat and her superior skills make her quite different from her father. Basically, in exchange for the charisma attack boost, she places with her Secret of Pedigree skill, taking into account that it simultaneously increases defense for 1 turn, removes all debuffs, and charges her NP gauge. I'd say this one skill alone makes her stand above Artoria in terms of versatility. While I'd rather be content with the Altura I own right now, Mordred is still a pretty decent saber to own. Also, her Noble Phantasm Clarence Blood Arthur deals extra damage to enemies with Artoria Arthur traits, so she'll come in handy once the Saber Wars event come around. Altura is an offensive servant, specialized in dealing damage through normal command cards instead of her Noble Phantasm. Aside from this, she is also able to function as a secondary damage dealer, provided there is another ally who can make use of the stars she generates, as well as Tactics Noble Phantasm damage buff and Photon Ray's defense down. She also possesses a healing skill which allows her to last slightly longer in the battlefield. All these make Artura a flexible servant. However, she doesn't excel in any other field other than her heavy hitting Brave Chain. Pair her with a crit star generator and you're gonna have no trouble facing bosses. Okita is one of the most solid, quick-based critical servants released up to date, boasting both high NP gauge and star generation rate. What the fuck am I saying? Okita is one of the best crit star generators in the game right now. Her performance is top-notch, even without supporting teammates. Her Noble Phantasm's defense down also allows her Noble Phantasm Brave Chains to be exceptionally powerful, something that is rarely found among quick-based servants. However, she is not without faults. Though powerful, most of her skills only last for one turn, giving Okita less room to improvise. Additionally, to achieve maximum performance with Okita, her quick cards must be used whenever they do pop up. This can often create problems when she is paired with arts-inclined servants, as it conflicts with the much-needed arts chains. But with so much flaws, she is also a waifu material, making her indispensable in the waifu team. Archer Pendragon, the Penguin King of Fateverse, the king that reigns over so many fans' hearts. She is the most sought after servant during the early stage, both because of her name and also her team's supporting skill set. Her stats were fine by standard, but mana burst and charisma makes her a great attacker, and with her AoE Noble Phantasm, she is also one of the best farmers in the game during the early stages. And with the Sabers over, we have finally came to the end of the best servants in Fate Grand Order NA. I hope you found some helpful things in this video. Although this video I didn't really mention much about waifu and husbandos, I'm sure everyone has their own opinions on servants. So in order to not create any riots, I'll just end it off right here. So this is for 2018 22nd February. And with the current release of Amasaku Shirou, I'm pretty sure he's one of the best rulers in the Fate Grand Order franchise. So keep him in mind. And with that, I'm ending off, signing out. This is D1J, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Looking for you, I'm always looking for you.